Alright guys, this is a walkthrough and demonstration for exercise 10.1 that you've been working on for the last couple of days. This does have some assumptions. We're already going to assume that you know some things to be able to complete this. And the first one is to assign an appropriate data type and create a method, methods with parameters, and to be able to call those methods and pass data into those parameters. Of course, there's new skills for Chapter 10. It's all about two-dimensional arrays. And one of those skills that we expect you to be able to do is declare, create, and initialize two-dimensional arrays. The examples in the book show you off the bat doing it in three separate groupings. You make your declaration statement, you create it in another statement, and then you initialize it in multiple statements. I'm going to show you how to do it in one statement. It's much less code to use. Also going to expect you to know how to set and change values for the elements within the array, and to get values from the elements, and also be able to determine the number of rows and columns from the array. And last, you need to be able to use nested for loops to traverse through all the elements within the array. All right, this is the handout that you received, and I'm going to go through each one of these. And if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things other than printing out your code and stapling it to the back and turning it in. You basically had 5 things that you needed to do. The last 3 needed to use nested for loops. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to walk you through sequentially here. The first thing we're going to do is begin a new Java application, and we're going to name it multi-dim array 01. Alright, bear with me on my typing. My typing's not the best. Public class, what is it? Multi-dim array 01. Alright. I wanted to add your name and the current date as comments on lines 1 and 2 respectively. I'm not actually showing my line numbers. Let me get my line numbers up here. And I want my name and date on line 1 and 2. Today's date, what? We're still, it's late tonight, but it's still the 27th. All right. Now, it doesn't actually say that you need to create a main method in there, but it's kind of assumed, unless we're going to have a tester class or something like that, like you've done in the past. We're going to want to have a main method. So you can just assume that unless you're told to have a separate class to do the testing, that we're going to have a main method. Helps if my hands are on the keyboard right. Sorry, I had a brain lapse there. Okay, let's go back to our handout. What do I have here? I got the new Java application going. I named it multi-dim array 01. I've added my name and current date as comments on line 1 and 2 respectively. You can put a check mark in that first one. It is done. All right. Now I'm going to create a two-dimensional array that will hold the following numbers, and I'm putting this actually in the main method. You can do this different ways. There's more than just one way to do it. I specifically want you to do it inside the main method because I want you to have the opportunity to pass this data. You could make it global in scope, and then each method would be able to access it without having to pass it. But I want you to pass the data. So we're going to create this inside the main method. Now if you notice the, let's go back here. The data types. I got 1.2, 5.79. They're all decimal values. So those are whole numbers, which means that I need a double data type. Let's see if my typing catches up here. There we go. And it's a two-dimensional array. So indicate it with a double set of brackets there. And I want to give it a descriptive name. I discourage you from naming your array array. I don't think you would name a variable variable, so please don't name an array array. If you want to give it a descriptive name, if you want to have the word array within the name, that's okay. But the way I learned this when I was coming up was to, if I were going to, whatever the variable would be, it's singular, but when it's an array, it's plural. So if I were going to name this as a variable, I would probably name it number or num, but for an array, I would name it numbers. So I'm going to use Hungarian naming convention, so I'm going to use a prefix, and I'm going to call it numbers. And I'm going to do this all in one statement. Instead of doing a declaration and then a creation and then initialization, I'm going to do it all in one. So I'm not going to use the keyword new. I'm going to go straight into creating the inputs for my elements. And I thought I was going to be, there we go. I thought I was going to be a little clever. You don't want to watch me type all this, so trying to get this in here for you so you don't have to watch me type. Okay. Now, you don't have to line it up like this, but I like it organized, and it's easier for me to follow code like this. And it is greatly appreciated when you make your code nice and neat. So this is the way I'm going to organize my statement. So lines 8, 9, and 10 is all one statement, and that's a declaration, creation, and initialization. All right. Now I'm going to come back to the main method later, but I'm going to go ahead. Let's take a look at what we got here. I just created 2D array that will hold the following numbers. I can put a check mark in that, and that's done. Now I'm going to create my three methods, my toScreen, my add one, and my average rows. And then once I have those created, I'm going to come back into my main method, and I'm going to make my calling statements and actually pass the data over to it. And then I can test my code and make sure it's working the way it should. So let's do the toScreen. Now I need to use nested for loops. That's the whole purpose here. Use nested for loops inside of a toScreen, and it's meant to print all the values in the array to the console. Okay, so let's go. Public static void no return, and it's toScreen. Well, let me keep consistent here. toScreen. And then I'm going to pass data to it, and it's going to be my array. And I can just put this as, I'm going to put num array. All right. Okay. All right, got a for loop. int, let's go with R. All right, that is what's considered the outer loop. That is going to get us through the rows. This one is going to get us. This one is going to get us through the columns. Okay, and what I want to do in here, all I want is just to print to the screen. So it's just one statement. But I actually, this is where I want to put in a little extra. I want it to look like this. I want to go 4 crossed and then come down, 4 crossed, then come down, then 4 crossed. So that's the way I'm going to write my code. So it was, when it finishes, it's going to look just like that. So I'm going to do a print instead of a print line. I'm going to do a print. And I want num array. And then concatenate. And there. Now, once again, this is for an entire row. That's each column inside the row. And once it's finished with each column inside the row, then I want to add a line. And then it will come back up to the for loop for the rows. It'll come down to the next row and then do each column in that next row. And that should be all it takes for the to screen. All right. I believe I have my to screen finished, so I can put a check mark there. I'll come back and test it later. But now I want to create add one. I'm going to add 1 to each one of the values in each of the elements. It's not typing. There we go. Yeah. Let's see. Am I going to have a return on this one? Yes, I'm going to have a return. I want to have a return because I want to assign it to, I want to assign what's in here. I want to change the values in the array and actually assign it to my other one. So I'm going to return a double, but not only a double, but a 2-dimensional array is what I'm going to return. And I want to be able to receive. Okay. Once again, I'm going to use the nested for loops. For intr. Inner loop is for my columns. Ooh, I just noticed something. I got a typo here. Glad I caught that now. Oops. There we go. Make sure my rest. Okay, the rest of them are okay. Come on. Yeah. Okay, now there's my nested loop. There's my nested loop. Now what am I going to do inside of here? I just want to add 1 to each one of these. So all I have to do is access the element. And what do I want to do? I just want to update it by 1. That's it. That's all there is to it. I just want to update it by 1. That's a shortcut operator, and just a plus plus will update it by 1 integer. I know they are double values, but that's the instructions. Update it by just a single. Update it by 1. All right, let's make sure we're on track here. Create a second method named add1 that will add 1 to each value, so the array will contains the following. So I went from 1.2 to 2.2, 5.7. So I'm just adding 1. The plus plus does it, and it's as simple as that. I'm done. Okay, third one, what do we do now? We want an average. We want to average each one of these rows and then just print that out. So I don't even really want to return anything there. I just want to print it out as I do it. So let's go ahead and do that. And I pretty much have my algorithm set for this. In other words, how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to continue with my nested loops. So let me set up my header. Come on. Oops. Got my double. And this is called average rows. And I am receiving a two-dimensional array. Okay, my outer loop is done. Let's do my inner loop, which is going to be for each column. Where did I go? Hit the wrong key. Alright, now there's my my nested loop. Now what do I want to do in here? I want to create an average. So I want to add each of the arrays, or each of the elements in the array. So I'm going to need actually an accumulator variable. An accumulator is updated by varying amounts. Let me come back up here and I'm just going to create one. And it's going to need to be a double data type, and it is going to be my sum. Double sum, initialize it to 0, and then I'm going to update sum. Now, since I want to keep what's in there, I do not want to overwrite. I just want to keep what's in there and update it by whatever is coming in. That's going to be a plus equal, and then it's going to be num array. There we go. And when I'm finished with that, I can actually print this out. Print line. Okay, let's see. Average for row. Let's do some concatenation here. And it's going to be R. Is, and then I'm going to put a little calculation here. It's going to be sum divided by, and let's go num array dot length gives us the number of rows. Nope, we want the number of columns. Length. I think that does it. Come back over. 4, 4. That should print out everything. I think it does. Let's go back and check what I have here. Alright, create a third method named average rows that will calculate the average number for each row and print that average to the console. I think we've done it. That's it. We've got all of it. So now we got to call each one of these. So come back up to the main method. And let's come right here. Let's have a little space. Now there's a couple ways we can do this. I've seen some of you creating objects. I'm going to do this without an object. We can do another example in another video, and I probably will add on to it, but for right now we're going to do it without creating an object, and we're going to call it straight from the class. So I'm going to screen, and I'm passing an entire array. What's the name of the array I'm passing? It's DBL numbers. So right here's the name of the array. That's the array, and I'm going to pass it to the method called toScreen. And I'm not receiving anything, so I don't need to do anything with. I don't have a return value I have to make accommodations for. So on the other hand, going to the next one, add one, I do have a return. It's returning, and I don't have a return. How about that? How many of you guys actually caught that? How many of you guys were waiting for an error here? All right, I need a return. Let's see, return. What am I returning? I'm returning number array. Yeah, you want to make sure you don't forget your returns on the AP exam. You'll be throwing points away on that. So now, I need to account for what's being returned, which means that I need to call it in an assignment statement. So DBL numbers is now going to be assigned, let's see, add one, let's see, DBL numbers. So I'm calling this method. This method is going to return a value. When the value is returned, it will then be assigned to DBL numbers, which means I'm basically going to overwrite my array. Now the third one, my original array now has new values at this point. So now we're just going to call average rows. Oh, I had a return on that. No, I don't want to return on this. Did you guys catch that also? Void. No return. I'm just going to print it out. I don't need to return anything. Man, I'm tired. All right, let's see. What was that? Average rows, and I'm passing an array. There we go. That looks like it should work. Now, do I have everything accounted for? I got that one checked, got all three of these checked. Question is, do I have all my logic down? Declared it. I'm calling them. I only have one return. I've got my return accounted for. I think we're ready to run this program. Okay. Let's go ahead and compile it first, make sure we don't have any errors. So I'm going to compile. This is the first time I'm compiling it, so it should ask me if I want to save it. Computer's a little slow. Here we go. Let's go ahead and save it. Alright, how many of you guys caught that I forgot to comment out my line 1 and line 2? Alright. Let me try the compile again. Oh, I've got an issue down here on line 54. What is it not like about line 54? Oh, I didn't concatenate. I imagine some of you guys caught that. And it looks good now. So let's go ahead and run it. Let's actually see what values I'm getting here. All right, here's my array. My average for row 0 is 5.1. My average for row 1 is pretty big. And average for row 2 is 19.65, all the way down to a 2. So it looks like it worked out well. Looks like it worked out okay. And that's it.